Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into something, well, pretty unsettling. It's this world where digital glamour meets extreme violence. We're talking about the rise of narco-influencers in Mexico.
Yeah.
This isn't your typical influencer story, obviously. The stakes here are incredibly high, literally life and death. Online personas clashing with brutal reality.
It's a really complex intersection, you know?
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, we've got some really compelling material. There's a comprehensive report that lays out the background, the history, the tactics. But crucially, we also have this incredibly raw conversation from a recent Twitter space. There's a guest, Hector, who gives this like real-time, on-the-ground perspective. It's powerful stuff.
It really is, and Hector's insights add this layer of urgency that you just can't get from a report alone.
Exactly. So our mission today basically is to unpack all of this. How is this digital world reshaping things in Mexico? What's the real human cost? And why has that line between online fame and, well, fatal consequences become so incredibly thin?
And it's important to stress this isn't just about kids messing around on TikTok. This is a sophisticated evolution of organized crime. They're using digital tools to project power, to recruit, to intimidate in ways that are really challenging everything. The conversation with Hector especially, it paints this stark picture of a crisis that's escalating really rapidly. It's insidious and it's extremely dangerous.
So we need to connect the dots,
Yeah.
right? From the history, the narco-cultura.
Right, the deep roots. Then trace it through to the digital tactics they're using now, the coded language, the marketing.
And then link that to the tragic reality, the specific cases, the people who've lost their lives.
Exactly. And overlaying all of that are the broader societal impacts, the politics, the corruption, particularly the deep concerns Hector voiced. That's what we really need to explore.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. To really get a handle on this narco-influencer thing, we need to understand narco-culture. It's this foundational subculture, right? Especially in places like Sinaloa.
That's absolutely right. Narco culture isn't just about the drugs themselves. It's deeply woven into the fabric of community life in certain regions. It's shaped norms, values, even economies for decades.
And it didn't just appear out of nowhere.
No, not at all. It grew over a long time, especially in these rural areas, these highlands where, frankly, the government was often absent. We're talking about places with significant poverty, very few legitimate ways to, get ahead. So drug trafficking became, well, for some, it became one of the only perceived paths to wealth, to power, to status.
And the traffickers themselves were sometimes seen almost as anti-heroes.
In a really complicated way, yes. They were seen as defying a distant, often corrupt state. They provided jobs, albeit illegal ones. They offered a way up the ladder that just didn't exist otherwise.
But it wasn't just about the money. There's a whole value system attached.
Definitely. You see emphasis on things like honor, bravery, family loyalty, which sounds positive, right? But it's twisted. It also includes vengeance, ruthlessness, and this kind of selective generosity. Cartels would sometimes position themselves as protectors of the community, stepping in where the state failed, offering security, resolving local disputes.
Creating this weird mix of fear and loyalty.
Exactly. Fear, reverence, sometimes opposition, it's all mixed together. And it's this deep-seated cultural ambiguity, this sort of fertile ground that existed long before the internet. The glorification wasn't invented by social media. It just found a powerful new amplifier.
And before social media, the main way this culture spread was through music, right? The famous Narco-Corridos.
Absolutely. The drug ballads, they were the analog propaganda, you could say.
Like folk songs, but about drug lords.
Pretty much. They evolved from traditional Mexican corridos folk ballads that told stories of heroes, rebels, historical events. Narco-corridos just adapted that form. The lyrics would glorify traffickers, detail their exploits, smuggling, shootouts, defying the authorities, both Mexican and American, all set to this really traditional, often catchy, polka-based music.
So they were building the mythology. Themes of wealth, power, hypermasculinity, stuff we see all over. Hashtag cartel TikTok now.
Precisely. They codified the narco lifestyle, turning figures into legends. But even back then, being the messenger, being the singer, was incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. That history foreshadows what's happening now, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Singers faced extreme risks. Think about Chelino Sanchez, murdered back in 1992, or Sergio Vega in 2010. These weren't isolated incidents. It established a pattern. If you publicize the narrative, if you amplify it, you become part of the story and you become a target. The technology changes, but that fundamental danger remains.
Okay, so narco-corridos were like a broadcast, one singer, many listeners, radio, maybe some censorship possible. Then comes social media.
And it's a complete paradigm shift. You go from that one-to-many model, which, like you said, had some potential for control, to this decentralized many-to-many network. User-generated content everywhere.
TikTok's algorithm. That seems particularly key here.
Oh, massively key. The For You page is designed for this kind of amplification. If you pause on a cartel video for even a second, the algorithm thinks, you like this, and it just floods your feed with more. It creates these incredibly powerful feedback loops. It's personalized propaganda, essentially, and it's very, very hard for moderators to keep up with.
So it's not just passive listening anymore. It's active influencing.
Yeah.
Instead of just hearing a song about El Chapo.
You're seeing videos that make it look like a normal day in the life. Counting cash, playing with tigers, driving fancy cars. It makes it seem accessible.
That's the really dangerous part, isn't it? The normalization.
That's the critical difference. Narco-Corridos made them legends, larger than life. Social media makes the lifestyle seem attainable, almost normal, even aspirational for some. This perceived closeness, this normalization, it lowers the psychological barrier for potential recruits way more effectively than a song ever could. It starts to look less like horrifying crime and more like a viable, if perilous, career path, as the report puts it, especially for young people feeling left out.
So it's clear this isn't random. This is a strategy. Narco-marketing, basically.
Yeah.
Building an aspirational story online while hiding the brutality.
Absolutely calculated. It's all about showcasing the spoils. You see it constantly on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. High-end stuff. Diamond bracelets, designer clothes, flashy sports cars, armored trucks even, and the exotic animals, the tigers, jaguars. It's a huge status symbol. It screams power, wealth, impunity. Like, I'm above the rules.
And the content is all focused on the fun stuff, right?
Yeah.
The parties, the power, not the other side.
Exactly. The danger, the violence, the torture, the constant fear that's meticulously edited out. What you see instead is curated hedonism. Sometimes they even throw in videos of members dancing or, farmers working in poppy fields, trying to create this connection with communities. It's a very deliberate strategy aimed squarely at young, impressionable people. Make the illegal look desirable. Make the criminal world seem exciting.
And they're using this coded language to stay online, to get around the filters, emojis and slang.
Oh, yeah, it's incredibly sophisticated. It's not just random slang. It's systematic. It's about branding, communication, staying under the radar.
Like the rooster emoji for CJNG.
Right. The Thor for El Mencho, their leader, the Lord of the Roosters, or O for Nueva Generation, or hashtag 4 letters for CJNG. Los Chapitos use the pizza emoji for Chapizza.
On the devil emojis for La Maña.
Yeah, Oye or O for La Maña, which basically means the mob or the trade. It's a whole digital vernacular. And the point is, this allows them to build this persistent online presence, to communicate, to recruit, without triggering simple keyword flags. It shows how adaptive they are. They're constantly evolving their digital game.
Which brings us to recruitment. That's shifted massively too, hasn't it? From local meetups to online funnels.
Fundamentally transformed. It used to be localized face-to-face. Now it's scalable, potentially global. Platforms like Facebook and TikTok are prime recruiting grounds. They post these vague job ads looking for security personnel, drivers, lookouts, using that same coded language, the emojis, the hashtags, to signal what it really is.
And kids are actually reaching out to them.
Shockingly, yes. A lot of it is proactive now. Young people, drawn in by the glamorous image they see online, literally message these cartel pages asking to join. They're attracted by the money, the perceived status, the excitement.
And it's not just Facebook or TikTok. It's happening in video games too.
Absolutely. That's another deeply concerning front. They're using games like Free Fire, Fortnite, Call of Duty, popular games with huge young audiences to connect with and groom minors, especially boys. The numbers are staggering. Back in 2021, an estimate suggested around 30,000 teenagers had been recruited by cartels in Mexico. 30,000. It just shows the scale of this digital dragnet.
Wow. But it's not all glamour. They're also using these platforms for raw intimidation, right? Psychological warfare.
Yes, that's the dark side of their online strategy. Since the late 2000s, really, they've used platforms, initially YouTube, now others, to post incredibly gruesome videos. Interrogations, torture, executions. It's designed purely to instill terror. In rivals, yes, but also in the general population, in journalists, bloggers, anyone who might speak out. It's about silencing dissent through sheer brutality, broadcast online.
But at the same time, they're posting videos of themselves handing out aid, like modern Robin Hoods. That seems like such a contradiction.
It's a fascinating and deeply cynical dual strategy. While they're posting torture videos, they're also running these PR campaigns. After a hurricane or earthquake, you'll see videos surface of, say, the Gulf Cartel handing out food, water, supplies. They plaster their logo on the aid packages. It's all about cultivating that Robin Hood image, positioning themselves as benevolent providers, especially in areas where the government response is slow or inadequate.
So they build support and loyalty with one hand while terrorizing with the other.
Precisely. It's about challenging the state's legitimacy on all fronts.
Yeah.
They offer services, whether it's aid or security, undermining trust in the government. And they use terror to suppress any opposition. It's like a digital counterinsurgency, as the report calls it. They weaponize the platform's own structures against them, the decentralization, the user-generated content, the coded language. It makes it incredibly hard to tell what's real citizen reporting and what's sophisticated propaganda. That ambiguity is their strength.
Okay, this is where it gets, well, incredibly real and deeply disturbing. The online world has very concrete, often fatal consequences. We need to talk about the specific cases, especially what Hector shared.
Yes, Hector's perspective from that Twitter space is just crucial here. He gave this immediate, chilling context. He mentioned these panfletos, these leaflets being dropped from planes about 4 months before he was speaking.
Leaflets with names on them?
Exactly. A list of people allegedly working with El Chapo Guzman, basically outing them, marking them for death. And that list included singers like Peso Kuma, who's huge right now, and other influencers. A very public, very direct threat.
And he talked about a specific murder, Camilo Ochoa. That case sounds horrifying.
It really illustrates the risks and the chilling new methods. Camilo Ochoa was an influencer, apparently collaborated with Damaso, who was part of the Sinaloa cartel. But then, as Hector explained, Damaso's faction split from El Chapo's sons, Los Chapitos, major internal rivalry. Damaso ended up becoming a DEA informant.
And now Chapo's sons are also working with the DEA.
According to Hector, yes. Which just shows the insane complexity and shifting alliances. This whole situation apparently triggered what Hector called a pretty nasty hunt for anyone aligned with the wrong side.
So Camilo Ochoa was caught in that hunt.
Exactly. He was killed just days before Hector's recording. He was hiding out in Cuernavaca in what was supposed to be a secure community, not Culiacan, the known hotspot.
But they found him.
They found him, shot him 8 times in a bathroom, and then this detail is just macabre. They put glasses on his dead body to mock him, apparently, and took a photo. Proof of the kill.
And how do they find him? Hector mentioned a hacker.
This is the really chilling part. Apparently, Mayo Zambada Chapo's former partner, now rival, hired a hacker specifically to find Choa. They sent him phishing links.
Like fake emails or messages.
Presumably, Choa didn't click them, but his wife did. Hector mentioned this ugly audio confirming it. The bitch already opened the link, now we have the location. They got his IP address, pinpointed where he was hiding.
That's terrifying. Digital tracking leading directly to assassination.
It's a stark example of how these digital tools are being weaponized for violence. And Hector's frustration with the authorities. He said the Fiscalia, the prosecutors, showed up the next day with armored trucks, but...
But it was too late.
Yeah. For what? He asked. The man was already dead. It just highlights the feeling of impunity, the sense that the state is always a step behind or maybe unwilling to act.
And Hector stressed this wasn't just Choa, it's a trend, right? Many influencers being targeted.
Yes, he made that very clear. Many famous mercenaries, singers, media people, both men and women. It's not just internal cartel beef, it's spilling over onto anyone perceived as being affiliated, anyone promoting a certain faction online.
Which lines up with the cases in the report, too, like Valeria Marquez.
Right. Valeria Marquez, 23 years old, beauty influencer linked to CJNG, murdered live on TikTok in May 2025 in her salon in Zapopan, CJNG territory. Apparently, just before it happened, she expressed fear on her stream about some gift someone was trying to deliver. Later, the U.S. Treasury actually named her alleged partner, Ricardo Ruiz Velasco El Doble R, a CJNG commander, as the prime suspect. They called it femicide as a tool of intimidation.
Femicide as a tool.
Yeah.
And then there are the Narco Juniors, El Chapo's sons, Los Chapitos. They're different from the old guard, aren't they? Very flashy online.
Very different. Ivan Archibaldo, Jesus Alfredo, Ovidio, Joaquin. They flaunt everything, the parties, the cars, the tigers, the guns. It's all over social media.
Yeah.
A stark contrast to the secrecy of someone like El Mayo Zambada. This behavior, this online flexing, it's about projecting power, yes. But it also apparently caused a lot of friction within the Sinaloa cartel. Power struggles contributing to the violence.
And this isn't just confined to Mexico. The case of Sabrina Drain Montero in Chile.
Yeah. Ina, 24-year-old Chilean TikToker, also a convicted drug trafficker. She used the alias Joaquina Guzman, a direct nod to El Chapo. Posted dancing videos. Murdered in Santiago last October. It shows how this narco-culture aesthetic and the danger that comes with it has gone transnational.
And we can't forget El Pirata de Culiacan.
Juan Luis Lagunas, just 17, killed back in 2017. Why? Because he got drunk and insulted El Mencho, the CJNG leader, in a YouTube video. One drinking insult, broadcast online, cost him his life. It shows how thin the line is.
So Hector really emphasized this internal war within the Sinaloa cartel at Chapiza versus La Maiza, and influencers are right in the middle.
Right in the crosshairs. He described them as basically being PR agents for their chosen side, defending their faction like a soccer team, he said. He used Camilo Ochoa as an example again. In interviews, Ochoa would praise El Chapo, say he was good with people, stop kidnappings in Culiacan, gave out aid, essentially painting the Chapo side as the good guys.
While trashing the other side.
Exactly. They speak ill of La Maiza, claiming they kill indiscriminately. It's creating propaganda, building narratives online, and that makes them targets for the rival faction.
And the violence itself is escalating. Car bombs, drone bombs.
That's what Hector reported, like incidents in Zacatecas with car bombs and cartels using drone bombs against each other. And his point was, inevitably, innocent people get caught in the crossfire. Stray bullets, collateral damage. The online posturing has lethal real-world consequences for everyone.
So how does the public react when these influencers are killed?
This was one of the most disturbing things Hector mentioned. He said, with real concern, that a lot of people are actually happy about it. They see it as justice, like they deserved it for being involved with narcos.
A purge or cleansing, he called it.
Yes, he saw it as this horrifying glorification of violence deeply embedded in society. But then he also pointed out these people still have fans. They have families, people who loved them and mourned them. It creates this really tragic, fractured societal reaction.
Okay, so this online glamorization, this constant exposure, it's clearly having a real impact, especially on young people. It's normalizing things that are, well, deeply criminal.
Absolutely. It desensitizes people to the violence. When you see it constantly framed as cool or powerful, it starts to warp perceptions. Criminality gets reframed as aspirational. The report mentions how admiration for narcos can be like admiration for rock stars. Combine that with the promise of money and respect, especially in places with few opportunities, and you can see why young people become so vulnerable to recruitment.
The numbers you mentioned earlier, over 460,000 kids involved back in 2018. That's staggering.
It's a systemic crisis, and it ties directly into how cartels actively work to erode the state's legitimacy.
By acting like a parallel government.
Precisely. They engage in what the report calls competitive governance. They hand out aid, creating that Robin Hood image. They publicize it heavily online. It makes them look more effective, more caring than the actual government, especially when official help is slow or corrupt. And they enforce their own justice. There was that example of police in one town telling people who'd been robbed to go see the local cartel enforcers.
Wow. So people start trusting the cartels more than the police.
In some areas, tragically, yes. It completely undermines public trust in legitimate institutions. It attacks the state's monopoly on providing welfare, on providing security. It solidifies the cartel's control, not just through fear, but through this weird kind of perceived legitimacy.
So the appeal isn't just the flashy cars and tigers. It's rooted in Mexico's deeper socioeconomic problems.
Fundamentally, you have millions of young people facing poverty, inequality, lack of education, lack of jobs. The narco world, despite its horrors, offers an alternative. A dangerous one, but an alternative path to money, respect, power. The report uses the term bulimic society, promoting consumer desires but denying the means to achieve them legitimately. So, drug trafficking becomes, for some, a perverse space for work, projection, and building a future. The narco-influencer embodies that possibility, however distorted.
Which brings us back to Hector and this truly disturbing dimension he raised. The deep political corruption. Narcopoliticos.com.
Yes, that website, a public registry. Hector presented it as something vital but also deeply alarming. Created by this journalist, Oscar Valdez, known for tackling public insecurity, it lists politicians, officials, business people allegedly protecting or working with organized crime.
And the examples Hector read out, they were just jaw-dropping, across parties, across levels of government.
The sheer scale was shocking. Governors, federal secretaries, police chiefs, even someone about to head a state Supreme Court. All listed with alleged ties to specific cartels, sometimes multiple, rival cartels, like Genaro Garcia Luna, Mexico's former top security chief. linked to the Sinaloa cartel, now arrested in the U.S., cooperating. Hector said he's spilling the beans. That points to corruption at the very highest levels.
That connection to Pegasus surveillance too, right? Access for cartels.
That connection has certainly been reported, linking state surveillance tools potentially being used to benefit cartels via compromised officials like Garcia Luna. It's part of that web.
And the woman poised to lead the Tamaulipas Supreme Court, linked to the Gulf Cartel.
Tanya Gisela Contreras Lopez, yes, allegedly linked to the Gulf Cartel and fuel theft networks. She was a legal advisor, now president-elect of the state's highest court. The implications are terrifying. Someone with those alleged ties controlling justice, potentially freeing cartel members. It's a direct assault on the rule of law.
And the politicians linked to multiple rival cartels, like Edgar Beta Cambero in Nayarit.
Right. Edgar Beta Cambero, linked to Beltran Leyva, H Faction, and CJNG. You asked, how is that even possible? Hector's explanation was chilling. It's either shifting loyalties causing conflict, these balaceras or shootouts, or politicians are literally threatened into cooperating, forced to allow rival groups passage or operations.
Like telling the police or military to stand down, let the monster trucks and weapons pass through.
That's the kind of scenario Hector implied. Anibal Avila, a municipal president in Michoacan, linked to CJNG even though the Caballeros Templarios dominate there. How does that happen unless someone higher up tells the local forces to, as Hector put it, go rest?
It paints a picture of complete state capture in some areas.
It really does. And Hector listed more: Hernan Bermudez in Tabasco, Silviano Orioles in Michoacan, Thomas Garrington in Tamaulipas, Julio Cesar Godoy Toscano, a federal deputy from Michoacan linked to La Familia Michoacana.
A lawmaker, approving lies while tied to a cartel.
That's the allegation. Mario Marin Torres in Puebla, linked to Beltran Leyva. Ruben Rocha Moya, the governor of Sinaloa, linked to CJNG, Cartel del Noreste, and Los Zetas.
It's almost farcical, like a complete mockery.
It feels that way. Ricardo Gallardo Cardona, governor of San Luis Potosí from the Green Ecologist Party, allegedly working with CJNG, Cartel del Noreste, and Los Zetas, none of which are even the main local cartels there. The irony is stark.
So Hector's final take on the political situation was bleak, wasn't it?
Utterly bleak. He basically said, no party is clean, all are a mess, garbage. He believes there isn't a single politician not involved somehow. He called the current president, Sheinbaum, a puppet, carrying on López Obrador's pacts with organized crime. His assessment: Mexico is a narco state, narco country, narco cities. He found it truly alarming. The corruption isn't just pockets, it's systemic, woven into the very fabric of governance.
So given this deep rot, this pervasive corruption, the sophisticated digital game the cartels are playing, what are the authorities actually doing? Is anything working?
Well, the official responses seem mismatched, maybe. The Mexican government strategy has swung back and forth. López Obrador had his hugs, not bullets approach. Focus on poverty, avoid direct confrontation. He called it Mexico first, not being policemen for others. Now, under Sheinbaum, it looks like a shift back to the kingpin strategy, more military, more intelligence, going after high-profile leaders. But historically, that often just fragments the cartels and makes the violence worse as new groups fight for control.
And the local stuff, like banning narco-corridos.
Yeah, places like Tijuana have tried that. The federal government promotes other music. Hector, as we heard, thought that was stupid. You know, singing a song doesn't make you a narco. It seems like a surface-level response to a deep problem.
And the U.S., what's their role in countering this?
The U.S. uses a mix of tools: diplomatic pressure, economic sanctions like the Treasury naming El Dobler R and the Marquez murder, designating cartels as foreign terrorist organizations like CJNG, offering big rewards for leaders, political pressure, threatening trade tariffs sometimes, mass extraditions. But again, it often feels like they're fighting the last war, focused on cutting off the head, while the Hydra just grows new heads and continues its sophisticated operations, especially online.
Which brings us to the platforms. Facebook, TikTok. They have policies against this stuff, right? Why isn't it working?
They do have policies. Meta's dangerous organizations and individuals policy explicitly bans these groups. But the reality is their systems struggle massively. The cartels are decentralized, adaptive. They use coded language, emojis, constantly shifting accounts. Centralized, rule-based moderation just can't keep up effectively. It's reactive. A gruesome video might go viral, get millions of views before it's taken down.
And the algorithms might even be helping spread it initially.
Potentially, yes. Plus, there's often a lack of the deep local, cultural, and linguistic understanding needed for truly effective moderation in real time. So you have this fundamental misalignment. Cartels are waging a 21st century information war. Governments swing between avoiding conflict and fighting a 20th century kinetic war. Platforms apply corporate policies that are easily sidestepped. The result: cartel digital influence remains, as the report says, largely unchecked and highly effective.
We started with Hector's voice, his immediate concerns. Let's end with his final, overall assessment of the situation in Mexico. It sounds like he was deeply worried.
Deeply worried is an understatement. He painted a truly harrowing picture. Daily increases in violence, Culiacan facing constant shootouts, people fleeing, violence spreading to places like Guanajuato massacres, decapitations becoming almost routine. And that disturbing observation, again, that some people are happy when certain people are killed, thinking it's a purge.
He sounds utterly exhausted by the corruption.
Completely. He repeated that Mexico is rotten, that if people don't speak up, it'll just get worse. The entire political structure, garbage. The current president, a puppet. Mexico as a narco state.
And the lack of a free press makes it even harder to address, right?
Critically so. He lamented the lack of real media coverage, calling TV narco television. He pointed out the immense danger journalists face, risks like a war zone, countless assassinations, and near total impunity. Only 1% of journalist homicides are solved. That creates a massive chilling effect. His final chilling point was that anyone can be killed now. Governors, mayors, judges, ambassadors, no one is safe. The problem, he insisted, isn't just poverty or lack of security, it's the corruption and the narco intertwined.
That metaphor he used, Mexico as the backyard for the United States.
Yeah, where the slaughter happens, while the refined drugs head north. He estimated 30 to 50 deaths daily, sometimes with government complicity, supporting factions, even killing candidates. And when asked what stands out most to him, his answer was just heartbreaking. How close we are to a bullet, and how far we are from freedom, stability, and peace. Hashtag after all.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot to process. We've gone from the deep roots of narco-culture through the evolution into sophisticated digital warfare, the horrific human cost for these influencers, and landed on Hector's absolutely chilling assessment of systemic political corruption. It's clear this isn't just crime, it's something much deeper, eroding society itself.
It really is. And considering everything we've discussed, the cartel's strategic brilliance online, the pervasive corruption Hector detailed, the way governments and tech platforms seem constantly outmaneuvered, it leaves us with a really important and unsettling question. A question for you, listening. What kind of society actually emerges when those lines become so incredibly blurred? The lines between organized crime, political power, state functions, and public influence online. When the digital narrative is so controlled, so manipulated, yet has such deadly real-world consequences. What responsibility do we all have, even from afar, to understand these complex dynamics? To recognize how digital shadows, cultivated through platforms we use every day, can impact peace, stability, and human lives so profoundly, not just in Mexico, but in ways that ripple outwards. It's something that definitely warrants much deeper thought.